The date was September 19th, 2015. We were halfway through what the fandom now calls the Month of Generosity, an entire month dedicated to Rarity. But this episode called Rarity Investigates was no ordinary day. Dripping with lush shadows, elegant camera angles, and a soundtrack smoother than a baby's hand. There was no way I could handle this one alone, and that's when he appeared at my door.
Hey, Toon, what's up?
Oh, dude, what are you wearing?
What? Rarity became a legal detective even though she had zero training. Why can't I?
This is a film noir. Why are you dressed as Sherlock Holmes?
I'm pretty sure Sherlock Holmes is film noir. I learnt all about it in school.
What kind of school do you go to?
Elementary, my dear Toon Critic. Now let's collab.
Seriously?
Look at my eyes, what do you see? The cult of personality.
We start off exactly where Carousel Boutique left us, and I like the show having these segues. It makes the story feel more tied together as if we're actually continuing the story over simply starting a new one. Dash comes round to visit as she just so happens to be in town as a backup Wonderbolt.
And thank God for this, finally seeing some progression after testing 1, 2, 3. This entire scene is just exposition and setup, but it doesn't stay for very long.
Rarity, you could sweet talk a filly out of candy.
Well, a baby dragon, but close enough. Moving on to the dinner party, here we get to see the Wonderbolts again, and we're introduced to a new character, a Wonderbolts legend known as Wind Rider. A new character, in a mystery-based episode, a new disposable character, if you will. Well, they better write him carefully or else he'd look like an obvious antagonist. Thanks Celestia, we have 4 writers making sure this setup is airtight though, am I right?
She just might beat your record.
Really now?
Well, that was stupid.
Gee, why don't we just put up a big old neon sign that says villain on it? The audience already knows who the culprit is before he even committed the crime. I mean, this would be okay if there was some kind of plot twist that he wasn't the culprit, but no, this episode plays it completely straight.
It's funny, first time watching this, I nearly let it off the hook. When you think about it, MLP is still a young show for young children, an audience who I'm willing to bet hasn't seen any sort of film noir. While painfully obvious to adults who have seen more mystery than Scooby-Doo, a little kid probably wouldn't have picked up on the not-so-subtle conventions of film noir that we're used to. Again, I nearly let it off the hook, but thinking back, this episode doesn't have that excuse because we've walked down this line before in Mystery and the Friendship Express, an episode with multiple possible perpetrators and a plot twist that most adult fans didn't see coming.
So comes the next day at training where things are going conveniently fortunate for Miss Dash. Spitfire receives a letter from her supposed sick mother, leaving Dash in her place for the flying show. And of course she's over the moon. But funny enough, even with Rainbow's antics on full display, Rarity ends up stealing the scene just by simply being a supportive friend.
But Legasp, a charlatan is afoot as Spitfire's mom is in tip-top condition at the stadium. Though one has to wonder why Spitfire didn't check on her mom first before going out on this quest. I mean, seriously, how gullible is she?
Well, she believed this.
All of them? I, tripped on a foam hook and landed on a cookie stick coming on the ground.
Oh, touche. But anyways, anyone who's played a Phoenix Wright game before can see where this is going. Dash is framed by the completely inconspicuous Wind Rider, but credit where it's due, the Wonderbolts, and to a greater extent Soren, are acting very reasonable given the situation and the time limit before the race. They don't waste time, they get stuff done, and they don't just cast judgment without giving Dash at least a day to defend herself. After Rainbow Falls, I was questioning whether or not the Wonderbolts were a good role model for Dash. Half the time they were the foil, and I even wondered if it might be better for Dash to go solo. But this is a huge improvement, and I'm happy to see more.
But she's not alone in her effort to find the culprit. In a single scene, this episode pulls a full 180 from being a lackluster mystery into a fantastic homage to film noir. Everything oozes with that smooth film noir vibe, and I do mean everything. The music, the lighting, the shadows, the dialogue, the pacing, the editing. The entire mise-en-scene of this episode becomes so dense with tropes and conventions that you honestly forget how obvious the mystery is.
At this point, you're just along for the ride, following Rarity's satirical ham-up of every film noir detective ever. Dash is a bit of a buzzkill, but it's understandable. Her dream job is on the line and Rarity's pretending to be Nick Goddamn Valentine.
It's synth detective, jackass.
But I'm glad Rarity's in this role. Using her keen eye for detail and her tendency to chew the scenery makes her a perfect character choice to spot clues and interrogate.
There are some problems I have with the middle section of the episode. Rarity's inner monologue takes up a surprising length of the episode considering it's A, the same joke, and B, information the audience already knows.
I agree. I felt like the animation and the visuals coupled with the smooth music would have been more than enough to explain the situation without Rarity pausing every 5 seconds to catch up the audience on what literally just happened. I mean seriously, who does that?
It seems British Ninja was questioning my methods of having an inner monologue by explaining that having an inner monologue would become annoying. He paraphrased in the words, "I mean seriously, who does that?" Little did he know that I'm having an inner monologue right now, summing up his thoughts on inner monologues. But alas, I must maintain friendly relations for the sake of this collab. Yeah, you're right, consistent inner monologues are ridiculous. Yeah, totally.
That response could only mean one thing. It was clear Toon was having an inner monologue expressing his thoughts about my opinions on having too many inner monologues. It was clear what I needed to do. I must have my own inner monologue talking about my thoughts on Toon's inner monologues as he tries to reply to my thoughts on having too many inner monologues. And if you're trying to keep up at home, don't worry, I'll explain it all later. Another time, another monologue.
Hello?
Pardon?
I can't even say.
Well, hello to you too! Also, we're halfway into this film noir episode, and I haven't seen any Sherlock Holmes.
That's because he isn't film noir. Having Sherlock Holmes even cameo in a film noir would be stupid, out of place, and frankly—
Oh look, there he is. He's even sitting with Watson. British Ninja 1, Toon Critic 0.
You, sir, are a bag of dicks.
Aw, you do care.
So it's confrontation time, and again, it's a shame it was so obvious who it is from the beginning, because Rarity's deduction scene of how Wind Rider committed the crime was very well done. The clues were very subtle, such as Wind Rider's scarf, and the curtain being out of place.
This gives a huge payoff for the little scenes like this, where both the audience and Dash shrug off Rarity's fashionista antics, when in truth her keen eye for detail was used to spot a clue that I'm willing to bet half the fandom didn't notice on the first viewing.
So that's Rarity Investigates. What are my overall thoughts?
Hey!
This episode has so much going for it. It has some of the nicest visuals in all of Season 5. The character choice is perfect, and soundtrack is so smooth, you can't help but get invested into what's going on. Of course, there is one giant flaw stopping this episode from being fantastic. Making the culprit so obvious in a film noir has to be one of the biggest sins of writing a mystery. What this episode basically did, I can sum up like this. It's like showing us a crossword puzzle and then filling in the answers for us before we even start. Holding our hand, basically. And you shouldn't have to do that with mysteries on kids' shows. Look at Gravity Falls. They know how to do mysteries and gradual build-ups. Here, there's no real mystery. It's more like, okay, how long is it going to take to get to the end?
But, funny enough, this isn't a deal breaker, and that's surprising because, well, it should be. A mystery revealing its hand before it even begins should be a total turnoff. But while I knew who the antagonist was before they even committed the crime, I have to admit, I wasn't bored. The actual investigation part of the episode is the superior section.
And of course, we only have one pony to thank, Rarity, who is the saving grace and practically carries the entire episode on Tabitha's incredible performance alone. What more can you say? She was just fantastic in this.
I can see why many people shrug off this episode as meh or even bad. It had a fair amount of hurdles to jump to begin with. It had to follow what's considered to be the best Rarity episode since Suited for Success. It came out around the same time as the new film. And if you're not a fan of film noir, then yeah, this might just come off as an underwhelming mystery, but hey, I think the positives greatly outweigh the negatives.
I'm the Toon Critic, and I give this episode
Steal my line once, I can forgive you. Steal my line twice, I'ma make a top hat shish kebab. Capiche?
Gotcha.
Thank you. I'm the British Ninja.
7 out of 10.
Motherfuck!